The novice doctor was frantic in the delivery room, seeing that the woman was about to give birth. The doctor ended up delivering the baby right in the hallway. Recently, Oh Ye-young received a call from the bank informing her that the loan repayment deadline had passed. Currently, she owes the bank 50 million won and has no means to repay. The bank offered an extension on the loan term, provided she could present proof of employment. Unfortunately, Oh Ye-young was unemployed. Although she once claimed that her career did not align with her interests, she had to reluctantly return to work to pay her bills. The next day, accompanied by her sister, Oh Ye-young returned to the hospital where she had interned. She had been a glamorous intern from a wealthy family, but her father went bankrupt last year, and she had caused trouble at the hospital. Now the only hospital willing to take her back was her old internship site. Her sister advised her to endure any humiliation from old colleagues and keep working at the hospital until she had repaid the 50 million won debt. With reluctance, Oh Ye-young returned to the hospital and went to the duty room for new resident doctors in obstetrics and gynecology. Despite her previous internship, Oh Ye-young was clearly still a novice, as were the other 3 new resident doctors. One was the top student from medical school, who joined obstetrics and gynecology after reading a professor's paper. One was a high school classmate whose hair was half dyed and whose name Oh Ye-young couldn't remember, and one was a former idol turned doctor. All seemed challenging to handle. Oh Ye-young, eager to finish her shift, slowly walked to the elevator. Today, she was assigned to assist Professor Seo in the operating room. Her colleague, Pyo Nam-kyung, revealed that Professor Seo was very critical and difficult to please. In the operating room, Oh Ye-young clumsily put on her protective gear, only to realize she couldn't see anything because the protective film on her goggles hadn't been removed. Professor Seo approached and had someone remove the film, leaving Oh Ye-young utterly embarrassed. Professor Seo completed a cesarean section. Afterwards, Oh Ye-young realized she had been standing idly with a pair of unused gloves, unlike the other doctors whose gloves were stained with blood from the surgery. At lunchtime, Oh Ye-young went to the cafeteria and was joined by her senior, Gu Do-won, who helped her with her meal. Her first question was about the time she could leave work. Learning that she couldn't leave on time today, Oh Ye-young looked utterly despondent. In the afternoon, Oh Ye-young was again assigned as Professor Seo's assistant. Distracted during the surgery, she hesitated about where to place the cut-off sutures. This hesitation earned her a scolding from the professor. Senior Gu Do-won tried to signal her with his eyes, but Oh Ye-young misunderstood the cues and kept holding the sutures, leading the professor to dismiss her from the operating room, along with the sutures. The other 3 resident doctors also had tough days. Pyo Nam-kyung, who had always seen Oh Ye-young as a rival from their high school days, secretly rejoiced over her performance. However, when Pyo Nam-kyung had to handle an emergency case herself, she was more nervous than the pregnant woman. Another, Kim Sa-bi, the top student from medical school, showed no empathy towards patients. When a patient cried out of fear before surgery, Kim Sa-bi, emotionless like a robot, mechanically read the surgery consent form to her. When a patient hesitated to sign and questioned why she got cancer despite living a good life, Kim Sa-bi bluntly stated that living a good life and cancer had no causal relationship. Then there was Jae-il, a former idol turned doctor, who mistook a nurse handing him a patient's report for a fan and autographed it with his stage name. Jae-il was the most diligent in the duty room, constantly busy with rounds, asking questions, and taking notes. He tended to overreact, imagining a simple runny nose as a basal skull fracture, which exhausted his senior colleagues. Finally, the 4 resident doctors reached the end of their shift. Oh Ye-young nibbled on a dry piece of bread and listlessly entered the elevator to go home. In the elevator, senior Gu Do-won comforted Oh Ye-young, who yawned wearily and warned him not to mention their relationship in the hospital or talk about hospital matters at home. It turned out that Oh Ye-young and Gu Do-won were related by marriage. Specifically, Gu Do-won was the brother of Oh Ye-young's brother-in-law, making him her uncle by marriage. Despite the warning, he soon discussed Oh Ye-young's day at the dinner table, embarrassing her in front of the family. Oh Ye-young also learned that she was not actually qualified to work at the hospital and had been hired through her uncle's abuse of his position. Before she finished dinner, she received a call to return to the hospital to handle a maternity case. Oh Ye-young was even more convinced that being a doctor was not a suitable job. The next day, a sleep-deprived Gu Do-won, still yawning, personally taught Oh Ye-young various precautions. However, Oh Ye-young remained listless. When a nurse called for a doctor outside the duty room, Oh Ye-young pretended not to hear until she was discovered and reluctantly went to see the pregnant woman. In the delivery room, the pregnant woman, who was actually expecting her second child, asked Oh Ye-young to keep it a secret and tell her new boyfriend it was her first pregnancy. Oh Ye-young watched in disbelief as the pregnant woman lied to her boyfriend about it being her first childbirth. To support the pregnant woman, Oh Ye-young reluctantly went along with the lie. The boyfriend thanked Oh Ye-young with a cake, which she and her colleagues casually nibbled at after Jae-il took a photo of the meal. Before they could finish the cake, their busy day resumed. Oh Ye-young checked and mistakenly thought the woman who lied about it being her first childbirth was fully dilated and in urgent need. She hastily informed Professor Seo, who quickly moved the woman to another room. Upon further examination, it was found that the woman was in excellent condition, not fully dilated. Professor Seo glared at Oh Ye-young, whose temper, not the patient's cervix, was the only thing fully dilated. Gu Do-won was exhausted from helping his juniors when Oh Ye-young called about the same pregnant woman, now in a seemingly real emergency. Gu Do-won quickly instructed Oh Ye-young to move the woman to the delivery room and rush to assist. Unexpectedly, the woman began to deliver earlier than anticipated. In the hallway, Oh Ye-young saw the baby's head and promptly put on gloves to deliver the baby right there. Within seconds, the baby was safely born. Holding the newborn, Oh Ye-young was overwhelmed with emotions, as this was her first time delivering a baby. Gu Do-won arrived just in time to cut the umbilical cord, and Oh Ye-young was moved to tears. As Monday arrived, the busy life of the first-year resident doctors resumed. After a full day, it was already 10 p.m., which was their earliest finishing time recently. Before leaving, they had to take turns reporting the day's activities to a demanding senior who required them to start over if they misspoke. With 5 surgeries that day and 7 planned for the next, Oh Ye-young felt overwhelmed. During Professor Seo's reading group the next day, everyone but Kim Sa-bi, the top student, was dozing off or fiddling with pens, listless and distracted. Only Kim Sa-bi was alert, helping the others with answers. After rounds, Oh Ye-young quickly found a moment to listen to music in a corner. However, her break was cut short by a call from Dr. Myung, informing her that a woman was in labor pain and needed an urgent cesarean section. Oh Ye-young rushed back to coordinate with the anesthesia department. After securing an operating room, she called Dr. Myung, who advised her to reserve a spot in the room and would bring the patient in. Half an hour passed without the patient's arrival. The anesthesia doctor started to push, but Oh Ye-young discovered Dr. Myung had casually taken another patient to the ward instead. When questioned, Dr. Myung acted as if nothing had happened and did not mention the surgery. The anesthesia doctor then criticized Oh Ye-young, suspecting her of lying to secure the operating room. Oh Ye-young, feeling wronged, had to bear the burden alone. Every morning, Oh Ye-young has to take a photo and check in with her group, always showing a bitter expression. Her workload is becoming unbearable. Occasionally, when Oh Ye-young forgets to send a photo and explains to Dr. Myung, the doctor accuses her of lying, infuriating her enough to hang up the phone. Frustrated by her senior's treatment, Oh Ye-young angrily packs up to go home, declaring that she may be broke but she's not without pride. Just then, an emergency alert for the obstetrics department is issued at the hospital. Hesitantly, Oh Ye-young decides to go to the scene and performs emergency aid for a pregnant woman. Thanks to her intervention, both the mother and baby survive. For the first time, Dr. Myung praises Oh Ye-young and advises her to continue monitoring the patient's vital signs the next day. After completing all the tasks assigned by Dr. Myung the following day, all Oh Ye-young can think about is finishing her shift. However, her uncle by marriage, Gu Do-won, finds more work for her, asking her to accompany a pregnant woman being transferred to another hospital. The woman's condition is stable, not requiring much attention from Oh Ye-young. Essentially, Gu Do-won's request is an excuse for Oh Ye-young to get some fresh air. Unexpectedly, the woman feels unwell during the transfer. Oh Ye-young quickly contacts Gu Do-won, who instructs her to relax and perform the standard checks. After conducting the necessary examinations and still concerned about the woman's condition, Oh Ye-young arrives at the destination hospital but doesn't leave immediately. Instead, she waits to ensure the woman is all right. Fortunately, the doctor taking over informs Oh Ye-young that the patient is fine, relieving her. Oh Ye-young breathes a sigh of relief knowing she couldn't forgive herself if anything had happened to the patient. The female doctor invited Oh Ye-young for coffee and shared her stories from when she was a first-year resident. Like Oh Ye-young, she was often flustered and reprimanded by her seniors, but unlike her, she had not prioritized the feelings of pregnant women. In contrast, Oh Ye-young always put the patients first, achieving what the doctor had not in her early years. After their conversation, the doctor handed a document to Oh Ye-young, instructing her to pass it to Gu Do-won. Oh Ye-young did as told, but Gu Do-won found that the document was actually just a blank sheet of paper. Understanding the doctor's gesture, Gu Do-won suggested that Oh Ye-young stay to observe a twin delivery surgery. Just as Oh Ye-young was about to respond, an anesthesiologist approached, criticizing her for unclear communication in English regarding anesthesia. Oh Ye-young, feeling downtrodden, not defend herself. At that moment, Dao Yuan stepped in to defend Oh Ye-young, asserting that her communication had been clear. The anesthesiologist then brought up a previous incident about Oh Ye-young allegedly hogging an operating room. Gu Do-won defended his junior, confident that she wouldn't lie for an operating room. After clearing up the misunderstanding, Gu Do-won assured the anesthesia department on behalf of Oh Ye-young that such incidents would not recur, and cautioned them against overstepping their bounds in criticizing new doctors. Moved by her uncle by marriage standing up for her, Oh Ye-young bowed in gratitude to Gu Do-won at the end of the day. Gu Do-won, concerned that Oh Ye-young might quit, walked up close and whispered a reminder not to forget her debt of 50 million won. His actions, somewhat affectionate, caused Oh Ye-young's heart to flutter. The other 3 new doctors were also exhausted. Pyo Nam-kyung was assigned to change a patient's dressings, and the patient was particularly demanding, insisting on punctual dressing changes and requiring Pyo Nam-kyung to change gloves and tweezers throughout the process. The patient's demands left Pyo Nam-kyung on the verge of tears, and she quietly complained to a nurse. Despite her complaints, the patient insisted on having Pyo Nam-kyung handle the dressings. Pyo Nam-kyung served the patient with a forced smile, like serving a deity. During lunch, a nurse called urging Pyo Nam-kyung to return within 10 minutes. She hurriedly ate a few bites of her meal without even wiping the stains on her clothes. At the restaurant, she bumped into an old classmate who was well-dressed and about to get married, making Pyo Nam-kyung feel miserable by comparison. Frustrated, Pyo Nam-kyung told the nurse over the phone that she would no longer change the patient's dressings and that the patient should find someone else. After her outburst, Pyo Nam-kyung took off her work badge and got into a taxi. However, she soon received a message from the nurse asking her to tidy the patient's room. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, she quickly returned to the hospital. In the room, she found the patient absent, with 2 relatives crying loudly. Thinking the patient was critically ill, Pyo Nam-kyung was ready to change the dressings one last time, only to turn around and see the patient standing behind her. She had just moved to another room. Pyo Nam-kyung, overwhelmed, cried as she changed the dressings, fearing the worst. The patient apologized, explaining that her illness often affected her mood, and she hadn't considered Pyo Nam-kyung's feelings. Pyo Nam-kyung managed a tearful smile. Meanwhile, Kim Sabi, the top medical student, remained emotionless and robotic. She spoke to the patients in a logical and rational manner, which upset one patient who bluntly told her that Kim Sabi was not suited to be a doctor. A senior doctor criticized Kim Sabi and asked her to apologize to the patient. Kim Sabi felt devastated and doubted her capability to continue in medicine. Fortunately, Professor Seo offered her advice, encouraging Kim Sabi to focus on her strengths and avoid her weaknesses. In the evening, Kim Sabi once again approached a pregnant woman, seriously analyzing her health and warning that she might have symptoms of epilepsy. The woman did not believe her, and just as she turned to walk away, fainted due to the symptoms. After the woman regained consciousness, Kim Sabi shared her determination to be a doctor. The woman subtly apologized and expressed hope that Kim Sabi would handle her second pregnancy. However, Kim Sabi missed the hint and continued to speak in medical jargon until the woman, somewhat exasperated, reminded her. Finally, Kim Sabi smiled, apologizing and expressing gratitude to the woman. Jae-il, meanwhile, felt ignored by the seniors. The busy hospital and wards seemed not to need him. In the evening, his colleagues called him, urging him to return because they needed him. Excited, Jae-il rushed back to the hospital, only to find out they wanted him back just to join them in reporting to the seniors. However, that night, Dr. Myung unexpectedly told the 4 residents that they no longer needed to report after their shifts. Unbeknownst to them, Senior Gu Do-won had been working behind the scenes to ease their burden. On Sunday, Oh Yi-young suddenly proposed a barbecue outing with her family. However, her brother-in-law, Gu Do-won, had to visit the hospital unexpectedly. If he couldn't go, Oh Yi-young would cancel the outing. After being cared for by him several times, Oh Yi-young developed feelings for him. On Monday, Oh Yi-young rode to work in Gu Do-won's car and deliberately talked about her various preferences. In contrast to Oh Yi-young's rich hobbies, Gu Do-won's life was bland, filled only with surgeries and writing papers. Perhaps for this reason, Gu Do-won couldn't help but compliment Oh Yi-young, calling her the most fun girl he had ever talked to. Realizing this was how she appeared in her brother-in-law's eyes, Oh Yi-young felt devastated. As work began, Oh Yi-young's distress returned. Before starting work, they were called for a meeting by a senior. Oh Yi-young naively thought she could suggest improvements for resident doctors, like salary adjustments. However, at the meeting, she realized it was a criticism session targeted at her when the senior read a complaint from a professor about her, such as yelling and not arriving on time for surgeries. The senior pointed out the flaws of the 4 new doctors. While Oh Yi-young felt wronged, Dao Yuan arrived with breakfast and discovered the session. He reminded the juniors to avoid such meetings in the future and to provide positive support and encouragement to new doctors. Today, Oh Yi-young learned from a professor treating a young female patient with uterine cancer. The professor informed that the patient might lose her uterus post-surgery. Despite the news, the patient remained smiling and optimistic, while her mother, worried, cried continuously and was comforted by her ailing daughter. After work, Gu Do-won came to the duty room to invite the doctors for a meal, but only Oh Yi-young agreed. During the meal, as Gu Do-won had to watch a surgical video, he ate quickly and hardly spoke to Oh Yi-young before putting down his chopsticks. Oh Yi-young started to complain, as she had hoped for a romantic evening with her brother-in-law. Gu Do-won hurriedly apologized, seemingly unaware of her feelings. After work, the professor scolded Oh Yi-young for delaying the surgery, which she felt was unjust, as the delay was not her fault. At that moment, the patient's mother came seeking Oh Yi-young's help to check on her daughter in the ward. However, the daughter was fine. The mother had only intervened to help Oh Yi-young escape the professor's scolding. The mother, seeing Oh Yi-young about the same age as her daughter, envied her for being able to make mistakes and grow during the best years of her life. She wished her daughter could also have the chance to grow up healthy. The mother was moved by her daughter's resilience and decided to stay optimistic and no longer cry. On the day of the surgery, the daughter comforted her mother as usual, and the mother, as promised, tried hard to hold back her tears in front of her daughter. However, once alone in the operating room and touching the cold surgical table, the daughter shed tears. She was not as fearless or strong as she appeared. Her optimism and bravery were all for her mother. Seeing the daughter's tears, Oh Yi-young called the lead surgeon to delay the surgery, giving an excuse over the phone. Even though she was scolded again by the professor, she took it willingly. Fortunately, the surgery was successful, and the daughter's uterus was saved. Oh Yi-young immediately went to the corridor to inform the patient's parents of the good news. The mother, hearing her daughter was safe, cried tears of joy, and Oh Yi-young, witnessing this scene, also shed tears in front of the family. That day, a man hurried to the hospital after hearing his daughter had fainted. However, during the examination, he discovered that his daughter was not ill but had concealed her pregnancy. Shocked, he scolded his daughter, who had just started university, worrying about how this might affect her future. Unfortunately, the pregnancy was too far along, and the child would have to be born. It wasn't until after the daughter gave birth that her boyfriend hurried over. The man furiously scolded the boyfriend for being thoughtless. Kim So-bi noticed a slap mark on the boyfriend's face. The boyfriend explained that he had wanted to bring his mother along, but she had refused. He looked at the newborn with concern for his girlfriend's postpartum condition. Seeing the boyfriend's responsible demeanor, the man calmed down slightly. At night, watching the new life that had just been born, the man smiled. Kim So-bi congratulated him, noting that at least the daughter's boyfriend was a decent young man. Still, the man felt a bit sad. While the birth was a joyous occasion, to him, this child seemed like an angel who might delay his daughter's life. Kim Sabi picked up items the man had thrown away from the trash can and handed them to the young woman. Inside was a postpartum gift and a note from her father, expressing his hope that she would turn to him for anything she needed. Reading her father's sincere words, tears streamed down the young woman's face. Kim Sabi smiled knowingly, believing the young woman would surely receive love from both her father and boyfriend. On the day the obstetrics and gynecology department took their annual group photo, Gu Do-won stood next to Oh Ye-young. He never expected that at the moment the shutter clicked, Oh Ye-young would quietly take his hand. From that day on, Oh Ye-young could no longer hide her feelings for Gu Do-won. When her sister came to see Oh Ye-young, she mentioned that her husband planned to introduce Gu Do-won to a female colleague from his company. However, according to her sister, Dao Yuan had refused the matchmaking. The sister was concerned about Gu Do-won's love life and inquired with Oh Ye-young if he had any romantic interests in the hospital. According to Oh Ye-young, Gu Do-won was not dating anyone within the hospital. Although she did not admit her feelings for her brother-in-law to her sister, she had recently been persistently pursuing him. She told him she hadn't had breakfast, only to receive a few pieces of bread he passed her. Despite this, Gu Do-won remained gentle towards Oh Ye-young. She worked as Professor Seo's surgical assistant, with Gu Do-won also part of the surgical team. After losing research data, Oh Ye-young was harshly reprimanded by the professor. She decided to remember the professor's lessons, but Gu Do-won advised her to forget the scolding and focus on the surgery at hand. Oh Ye-young nodded, but during the procedure, she accidentally cut Gu Do-won's hand with the scalpel. Fortunately, Professor Seo completed the surgery calmly and smoothly. Feeling guilty, Oh Ye-young apologized with her head bowed. Dao Yuan gently assured her not to worry, as such incidents were not uncommon in the operating room. Nevertheless, Oh Ye-young insisted on seeing his hand, but Gu Do-won withdrew it as if avoiding her. At that moment, an emergency case arrived at the hospital. A pregnant woman with infectious chorioamnionitis. The 20-week-old fetus could no longer be saved. The woman, heartbroken, had previously experienced a similar loss. She begged the doctors to let the baby stay inside her for one more day, wanting to be a mother for just one more day. Professor Seo could not agree, as each additional day increased the mother's risk. Professor Seo explained the circumstances privately to the husband. Considering the wife's safety, the surgery had to be performed as soon as possible. The husband agreed, reluctant to lose the child, but unwilling to see his wife decline or carry guilt for an unborn child. The surgery went smoothly, and the 20-week-old fetus was removed. Oh Ye-young carefully held the underdeveloped child, and she was then tasked with checking for any cardiac abnormalities in the fetus. Seeing the fetus's heart still beating, Oh Ye-young felt deeply troubled and told Professor Seo she couldn't perform the examination. The professor reminded her to set aside personal feelings and prioritize the mother's decision. Oh Ye-young nodded obediently, but still struggled to proceed. Fortunately, Gu Do-won comforted her. In front of him, Oh Ye-young slowly shared her past experiences. She had previously encountered this pregnant woman in another hospital and witnessed her struggle and pain after losing a child. Gu Do-won gestured with his hands, explaining that a 20-week-old fetus already resembles a healthy baby with breath and heartbeat, and naturally, it's hard to let go. But what can be done? Doctors can never truly decide the fate of life. They can only strive to help the mother and child, which is their duty and purpose in the hospital. Gu Do-won's words helped Oh Ye-young to let go of her worries. Holding the 20-week-old fetus, she slowly walked to the operating room where Kim Sabi would join her for the examination. Actually, before the check, there had been some issues between Oh Ye-young and Kim Sabi. Professor Seo planned to write a paper and sought an assistant from among the 4 new resident doctors. If successful, the assistant would have a chance to travel abroad for a conference with him. Hearing this, all colleagues except Oh Ye-young, who was distractedly playing with cookies during the meeting, raised their hands to volunteer. Seeing this, Professor Seo chose Oh Ye-young as his assistant. Oh Ye-young, not wanting the role but feeling unable to refuse, accepted it reluctantly. Afterward, Kim Sabi was upset because she and others had accidentally seen chat messages between Oh Ye-young and her sister, indicating Oh Ye-young was considering resigning. Kim Sabi couldn't understand why the task was given to someone who didn't want to continue working. In frustration, Kim Sabi formatted the files on Oh Ye-young's computer, leading to the loss of the research data Professor Seo had entrusted to Oh Ye-young, resulting in her being severely scolded. Kim Sabi, secretly pleased, was convinced that the professor would now choose her to replace Oh Ye-young as his surgical and paper assistant. Contrary to expectations, the professor requested that Oh Ye-young assist him in all future surgeries. Kim Sabi felt uneasy about this. When Oh Ye-young was away at lunch, Professor Seo left a note reminding her to send certain data to him in the afternoon. After hesitating briefly, Kim Sabi dropped the note on the floor. Later, feeling guilty, Kim Sabi tried to mimic the professor's handwriting to return the note to Oh Ye-young. However, Oh Ye-young said she had already sent the required data to the professor. Kim Sabi was surprised, but soon realized that Oh Ye-young might have seen her throwing away the note. Indeed, Oh Ye-young had witnessed Kim Sabi dropping the note. Embarrassed, Kim Sabi was unable to face Oh Ye-young, who pretended not to know anything and claimed she saw someone else pick up and reattach the note, never mentioning Kim Sabi's name. Moreover, Oh Ye-young brought up the matter of the 20-week-old fetus, hoping that Kim Sabi, the top medical student, could assist her. Realizing Oh Ye-young's goodwill, Kim Sabi immediately agreed to help. Before the examination, Oh Ye-young was uneasy, so Kim Sabi led a prayer for the fetus, believing it would go to a better place. Oh Ye-young felt reassured and began the fetal examination with Kim Sabi. Before leaving work, Kim Sabi apologized to Oh Ye-young, who casually dismissed the matter. Just then, Jae-il came to invite everyone to dinner, and this time, no one refused. Oh Ye-young returned to her locker to retrieve something she had left behind, only to see the happy group photo of the obstetrics and gynecology team already posted inside her locker. Recently, a new intern doctor joined the hospital. Due to his inexperience, he often made mistakes, leading to all his responsibilities being handed over to Oh Ye-young. Oh Ye-young, already stressed, became further irritated as the intern would constantly talk during patient consultations. In a moment of frustration, Oh Ye-young cursed out loud, which upset the intern. This was the first time Gu Do-won reprimanded Oh Ye-young. As a senior, Gu Do-won believed it was natural to scold for mistakes, but not in front of patients, especially not to an intern who had only been working for 3 months. However, separating work from personal life, Gu Do-won apologized to Oh Ye-young after work for the scolding. Oh Ye-young didn't take it to heart as she had already apologized to the intern. Just after midnight, it turned out to be Oh Ye-young's birthday. Gu Do-won hurriedly said she could ask for anything she wanted. Seizing the moment, Oh Ye-young asked if she could like him. Gu Do-won paused briefly before agreeing, but he added that if she wanted to make things awkward between them, she could proceed. The next morning, Oh Ye-young celebrated her birthday with her sister, and Gu Do-won was also there. However, he left early for work after eating only a few bites. At work, a colleague asked Oh Ye-young to deliver some documents to Gu Do-won. She quickly went to his duty room and found Gu Do-won resting on the bed. To catch his attention, Oh Ye-young dropped a pen on the floor to make a noise, but he did not wake up. Disappointed, she left, unaware that Gu Do-won had actually been awake and was deliberately avoiding her. The hospital day continued as usual. Oh Ye-young was responsible for examining a lady with early-stage cancer who could be cured with surgery. The lady, worried about not waking up from general anesthesia, asked Oh Ye-young to ensure she was awakened. Her 10-year-old son, seemingly unaware of his mother's illness, was noisy and busy playing games in the room. In the same ward, another cancer patient was accompanied by her daughter, the same age as the boy but noticeably more mature and behaved, quietly folding her mother's socks. Unfortunately, the girl's mother had severe cancer and had undergone multiple surgeries and chemotherapy over the years. Despite this, she always remained optimistic and smiling in front of her daughter. The boy's mother encouraged her, believing she would get through this chemotherapy and they would be discharged together. Due to her examination, the lady asked Oh Ye-young to look after her daughter. Oh Yi-young took the girl to the cafeteria for lunch, where she behaved well and ate properly with her chopsticks. The girl, acting like an older sister, took the boy to ask the doctor about his mother. Fortunately, the boy's mother's surgery went smoothly. Oh Yi-young shouted the woman's name, and she almost tried to sit up in shock, relieved that she could see her son again. Post-surgery tests showed the woman was recovering gradually, and she breathed a sigh of relief. More precious was that her son stopped being troublesome and started to understand, quietly falling asleep beside her. However, bad news soon arrived. The girl's mother's vital signs suddenly became unstable, and she was moved to the intensive care unit. A senior communicated the medical situation to the girl, who firmly believed her mother would recover. The senior, unable to bear telling her the harsh reality, left the task to Oh Yi-young, asking her to inform the girl when appropriate. After careful consideration, Oh Yi-young chose to be straightforward and told the girl that her mother was going to heaven and to prepare herself. The girl, understanding the meaning of heaven, finally started to sob. Oh Yi-young held the girl's hand, advising her to say goodbye to her mother properly, to cherish her mother's photos, to cry if she wanted, and to do what she needed without hiding her sadness. Oh Yi-young spoke from experience, having lost her own mother, and empathized deeply with the girl's feelings. The girl, tearfully nodding, received Oh Yi-young's phone number, with instructions to call if she encountered any difficulties. The girl's situation made Oh Yi-young reminisce about her own mother. Early one morning, in a daze, Oh Yi-young thought she heard her mother calling her and her sister to get up. However, when she got out of bed, there was nothing there. Oh Yi-young crouched on the floor and cried for a long time, just like the girl who had tried to appear strong. Kim Sabi was also moved by a patient's situation. An elderly woman suffered from uterine prolapse. Her daughter, unable to bear seeing her mother in pain, insisted on surgery. However, because the issue was related to the uterus, the grandmother was embarrassed to discuss her condition, fearing gossip from neighbors, and thus hesitated to proceed with the surgery. Kim Sabi struggled to persuade patience, so a senior colleague stepped in to comfort the grandmother. He explained that her condition was due to her hard-working life. For 40 years, she had skinned eels all day to save money for her son's wedding and spent every night washing dishes so that her daughter could marry well. Therefore, the grandmother shouldn't feel ashamed and should have the surgery soon, so she could proudly tell her neighbors about it afterward. The doctor's words gradually brought tears to the grandmother's eyes, and her daughter thanked the doctor. Watching the emotional scene of the mother and daughter crying together, Kim Sabi was touched and promised the senior that she would carefully monitor the grandmother's condition. To Kim Sabi, the senior's words were another form of healing. Oh Yi-young spotted Gu Do-won taking the elevator as she left work and hurried to the parking lot, only to realize she had mistaken someone else for him. Just then, her sister called to tell her that their uncle had already arrived at the family gathering venue by subway, which further disappointed her. The next day after work, Oh Yi-young waited in the parking lot early and finally caught up with her uncle. She was thrilled to leave work with him, but pretended otherwise, joking that she was inconveniencing him by catching a ride. Gu Do-won felt bothered, and Oh Yi-young glared at him. He hurriedly explained, while she looked utterly disheartened, thinking how her kind and composed uncle at the hospital could treat her so carelessly. Gu Do-won apologized sincerely and started driving, promising to get Oh Yi-young home safely. On the way, Dr. Myung called Gu Do-won. They had collaborated on a paper, and Dr. Myung had submitted it as the sole first author, relegating Gu Do-won to second author without prior notice. Dr. Myung hypocritically apologized over the phone, claiming he had forgotten to inform Gu Do-won before submission. Aware of the lie and the deliberate credit grabbing, Gu Do-won kept his anger to himself without confronting the issue. The next day, Gu Do-won learned from Dr. Myung that their paper had been selected for an award, and as the first author, Dr. Myung would be receiving it on stage. Gu Do-won felt wronged, but remained polite and courteous. To prevent Gu Do-won from exposing his unilateral decision to kick him off as the first author, Dr. Myung again pretended to be generous, offering to share the prize money with Gu Do-won, who declined it. Dr. Myung then falsely promised such incidents would not happen again, and asked Gu Do-won not to be upset. Gu Do-won, ever the good guy, still refrained from any direct confrontation with his colleague. At that moment, Oh Yi-young stepped forward and directly reminded Dr. Myung that she had yet to apologize to Gu Do-won for what had happened. Dr. Myung, extremely embarrassed, quickly lowered his stance and apologized to Gu Do-won. After leaving the award ceremony, Gu Do-won and Oh Yi-young rested together in the park. Gu Do-won was actually very happy that Oh Yi-young had stood up for him, but he was worried that her actions might offend his senior. Oh Yi-young didn't care and continued to curse. Seeing this, Gu Do-won asked if Oh Yi-young's feelings for him had changed. Noting that he had never seen anyone curse in front of someone they liked, Oh Yi-young quickly clarified, but Gu Do-won asked her to repeat it. Misunderstanding, Gu Do-won actually wanted to hear her curse again. Oh Yi-young cursed again, and Gu Do-won was delighted, feeling that being with her always helped release his frustrations. In the hospital, Oh Yi-young met a man very much like Gu Do-won, who was exceptionally gentle and caring towards his wife. He kept asking the doctors to take good care of his treasure, earning praise from the nurses, who said they had never met such a considerate man in their years of working in obstetrics. Later, the man's wife needed to deliver prematurely due to a sudden complication. Anxious, the man repeatedly implored Oh Yi-young to take good care of his wife. The baby was born safely, but the woman suffered severe bleeding and needed surgery immediately. The man was so distressed that he cried on the spot. Fortunately, the surgery went smoothly, and he was profusely thankful to the doctors. However, as soon as his wife was wheeled out of the surgery room, he showed his true colors. Despite his wife just having had a life-threatening experience, he not only failed to comfort her, but also encouraged her to get pregnant again soon to fulfill his dream of having a son and a daughter. This angered his wife so much that she exploded on the spot and whispered to Oh Yi-young to relay a message to her husband. Oh Yi-young boldly shouted out the wife's scathing rebuke to her husband. The wife nodded in satisfaction upon hearing Oh Yi-young, and the doctors present felt a deep sense of catharsis, with no one intending to stop Oh Yi-young. Jae-il's colleague also encountered a particular expectant mother who came weekly for ultrasound scans. Despite the fetus being healthy, she constantly worried. The senior doctors grew impatient as the ultrasound consistently showed no issues. However, the mother remained uneasy, complaining that the doctors were not thorough enough. Seeing her distress, Jae-il offered to perform another ultrasound himself. Although he was less experienced than the seniors, he was thorough and liked to double-check. During the scan, he communicated with the mother in a friendly tone, letting her listen to the baby's heartbeat, among other things. After a detailed and patient examination by Jae-il, the mother finally felt reassured. While Jae-il was resting in the duty room, a nurse called him. The same expectant mother had returned, specifically requesting Jae-il for her scan. He hurried over and carefully examined the ultrasound, his thoroughness leading to the discovery of potential signs of uterine rupture. Jae-il quickly called his senior, who confirmed the diagnosis and promptly arranged for surgery. The surgery was successful, ensuring the safety of both mother and child. The mother apologized for her repeated visits and concerns, but the senior reassured her that it was okay, understanding her as a mother herself. His kind words comforted the expectant mother. Oh Yi-young's sister came to the hospital for a checkup. She wanted to have children and had undergone several fertilization procedures with her husband. Seeing pregnant women of various stages in the hospital, she felt envious. Unfortunately, she soon received news of another failed procedure. Sitting near the priority seat for pregnant women on the subway, she fought hard to hold back her tears, overwhelmed by the pain of unfulfilled desires. Outside the hospital, the relationship between Oh Yi-young and Gu Do-won grew closer. Gu Do-won treated his juniors to a meat dinner and initially said he would return to the hospital after. However, shortly after, Oh Yi-young saw Gu Do-won change his statement to going home when he appeared beside her. It turned out Gu Do-won was concerned about the juniors gossiping about his relationship with Oh Yi-young. Oh Yi-young reminded him that everyone was too busy to gossip. Gu Do-won then began to show concern for Oh Yi-young, worried about her walking through alleys alone and encountering danger. Gu Do-won quickly excused that he was only afraid of Oh Yi-young meeting bad people. Gu Do-won was about to take a 3-day vacation and planned to leave for another city the next morning. The night before, he specifically instructed the 4 juniors not to contact him unless necessary. On the first day of his vacation, Oh Ye-young took over a case from a foreign pregnant woman whose water had broken. After examination, Oh Ye-young found that an emergency surgery was needed to deliver the baby, but Professor Shu was busy with another surgery. Oh Ye-young had to prepare alone, seeing the baby's feet already showing. Professor Shu was still unavailable, but fortunately, Dr. Ham arrived just in time to administer anesthesia to the pregnant woman, and Oh Ye-young had to proceed with the delivery on her own. Up to that point, Oh Ye-young had never led a surgery, but the situation was urgent. Encouraged by her seniors, she nervously picked up the scalpel. At that moment, Gu Do-won appeared. Originally, he was supposed to be on vacation and leaving town, but he overslept in the restroom due to exhaustion and missed his flight. Gu Do-won then put on a surgical gown and took the scalpel from Oh Ye-young. With his assistance, the surgery ended successfully. The mother was safe, but the baby did not cry initially. Fortuitously, after gentle tapping by the doctors, the baby finally cried. Relieved, Oh Ye-young hugged Dr. Ham tightly. Gu Do-won, watching Oh Ye-young embrace another man, felt displeased. After the surgery, Oh Ye-young messaged Gu Do-won to invite him for coffee. She was outside waiting for him. It started raining, and an umbrella was promptly opened behind her. Oh Ye-young turned around to see not Gu Do-won, but Dr. Ham from the anesthesiology department. Dr. Ham gave Oh Ye-young a drink and handed her the umbrella, asking if she could join him for a meal when returning it. Oh Ye-young was stunned, unaware that her younger uncle was watching this scene from not far away. Seeing another man approach Oh Ye-young, Gu Do-won felt a twinge of jealousy. Pyo Nam-kyung was also dealing with emotional troubles, having recently broken up with her boyfriend. She was comforted by the intern, Dr. Cho. Lately, Dr. Cho had been a blow to Pyo Nam-kyung's self-esteem. Dr. Cho, lacking experience, sometimes panicked and confused patients with the same name. Instead of scolding, Pyo Nam-kyung took Dr. Cho aside and patiently instructed him to make sure to verify patient information next time. Pyo Nam-kyung initially thought Dr. Cho was easy to communicate with, but soon learned that his specialty was causing trouble. A patient needed a medication patch on the abdomen, and Pyo Nam-kyung saw that Dr. Cho had oddly shaped the patch into an octagon. She corrected him and reapplied the patch, only for the patient to prefer Dr. Cho's method, praising the intern for his meticulous work. Much to Pyo Nam-kyung's grin, a grandmother with cancer was admitted to the hospital. She was somewhat famous for supporting her son through selling mung bean pancakes and donated annually to pediatrics. Her son requested the doctors to conceal the cancer diagnosis from her. The seniors specifically instructed Pyo Nam-kyung and Dr. Cho to keep the secret. However, Dr. Cho accidentally revealed it in front of the grandmother. Learning about her cancer, the grandmother became disheartened, preferring to save money for her children rather than spend it on a surgery with little hope. The doctors tried to persuade her, but she agreed to the surgery shortly after, upset that the doctors hid her condition. Instead, she appreciated Dr. Cho for his honesty and declared her trust only in him, requesting his presence during the surgery. Despite doing little, Dr. Cho received praise, which made Pyo Nam-kyung feel even more aggrieved. To honor his promise to the grandmother, Dr. Cho assisted in the operating room. According to senior doctors, Dr. Cho had an excellent reputation among patients, who found him kind, attentive, and competent, exacerbating Pyo Nam-kyung's depression. During surgery, the senior asked Pyo Nam-kyung to fan the patient's wound, but she was distracted and fanned herself instead. After the surgery, faced with the amusing Pyo Nam-kyung, the naive Dr. Cho couldn't help but laugh. Outside the hospital, Gu Do-won's feelings became increasingly hard to hide. To commute with Oh Ye-young, the disciplined Gu Do-won deliberately woke up late. He kept asking Oh Ye-young various questions, puzzling her since her younger uncle had been living with her for over a year and suddenly seemed interested in her personal life. At the hospital elevator, Dr. Ham invited Oh Ye-young to dinner on Friday right in front of Gu Do-won, who was inside the elevator. Seeing Dr. Ham and Oh Ye-young together, Gu Do-won felt jealous again. Hearing Dr. Ham mention booking a restaurant, Gu Do-won quickly pressed the elevator button, wanting to say something to Oh Ye-young but eventually decided against it. As the elevator doors closed, Gu Do-won appeared troubled and alone. Oh Yi-young, somewhat troubled, worried that Dr. Ham's dinner invitation was because he liked her. She decided to ask Jae-il and Pyo Nam-kyung for their opinions. Jae-il believed that if a man invites a woman to dinner alone, it means he likes her. However, Pyo Nam-kyung thought it was just out of colleague appreciation. Oh Yi-young believed Pyo Nam-kyung's explanation and decided to accept Dr. Ham's invitation. Learning from Pyo Nam-kyung that Oh Yi-young rushed off to meet a man after work, Gu Do-won's face showed displeasure again. Oh Yi-young arrived at the restaurant and was informed by the waiter that Dr. Ham had booked a private room, which worried her again. However, upon entering, she saw that Dr. Ham had also invited other doctors from the anesthesiology department. The dinner was a celebration of the successful delivery they helped with for the foreign pregnant woman, making it a celebration dinner for the doctors. After the dinner, Dr. Ham directly addressed Oh Yi-young's concerns, guessing that she was worried about having dinner alone with him. Oh Yi-young quickly tried to explain, but Dr. Ham discovered her secret crush on Gu Do-won. A few days earlier, after a surgery, Dr. Ham had seen Oh Yi-young accidentally touch Gu Do-won's hand, then quickly withdraw it while sneakily glancing at him with a look of affection. Oh Yi-young admitted her feelings and spoke about the difficulties of having a crush. Dr. Ham then suggested that Oh Yi-young give up and choose him instead. After a brief hesitation, Oh Yi-young decisively rejected Dr. Ham's confession, stating that she only had feelings for Gu Do-won. After work, while waiting for the bus with Gu Do-won, she learned that Dr. Ham had only invited her to a celebration dinner. Gu Do-won felt relieved. Seeing a couple sweetly embracing at the bus station, Oh Yi-young turned and told her uncle she wished for the same. Gu Do-won looked around nervously, trying to compose his words, but when he turned back, Oh Yi-young was already sitting under the bus stop sign. Gu Do-won sat down next to her, and as he got closer, his watch issued a warning for an increased heart rate. He quickly covered his watch, and then looked at Oh Yi-young tenderly. Recently, Pyo Nam-kyung's mother came to the hospital for an oophorectomy. She enjoyed telling her daughter's colleagues amusing stories about her, and asked them to bear with her spoiled princess. Pyo Nam-kyung, embarrassed, pleaded with her mother not to talk about family matters at her workplace. Meanwhile, her mother, concerned that her daughter had only eaten bread for dinner, tried to feed her dumplings. Pyo Nam-kyung stubbornly resisted, feeling that her mother was disrupting her work. Later, Pyo Nam-kyung shared her mother's dumplings with 3 colleagues. Jae-il envied her daily dumplings, noting that unlike his situation, Pyo Nam-kyung's mother was around, as his parents were abroad. Kim Sabi also envied how Pyo Nam-kyung's mother remembered all her daughter's amusing stories, whereas her own mother had never even attended her graduation. Hearing her colleagues complain about their mothers and envy others, Oh Yi-young muttered that having a mother was already quite wonderful. Since Pyo Nam-kyung's mother came to the hospital without telling her, and Pyo Nam-kyung already had another surgery scheduled for the next day, she couldn't accompany her mother into the operating room. Before the surgery the next day, Pyo Nam-kyung continually comforted and encouraged her mother, who was actually quite timid and felt cold easily. Pyo Nam-kyung asked the senior surgeon to ensure her mother was covered with an extra blanket after the surgery. The mother's surgery went smoothly, but she was in pain afterward. Despite this, she still thought of her daughter, advising her not to just eat bread, but to have a proper meal. As her mother's health gradually improved, they sat down for a casual chat. Her mother learned about a professor who often yelled at her daughter and was indignant, wanting to seek justice for her child. When that professor, known for scolding Pyo Nam-kyung, arrived, Pyo Nam-kyung kept hinting to her mother not to lose her temper in front of him. Hesitating for a long time, her mother ultimately decided to protect her daughter by restraining her dissatisfaction, grasping the professor's hand, and asking him to take good care of Pyo Nam-kyung. On the day her mother was discharged, Pyo Nam-kyung escorted her to the exit and asked if she felt uncomfortable during her hospital stay. Her mother gently shook her head, feeling very happy. It was the first time she had slept with her daughter since her middle school days, which moved Pyo Nam-kyung to tears like a child. Her mother also shed tears but repeatedly wiped the tears from her daughter's face. Amid his busy hospital life, Gu Do-won starts to sort out his feelings for Oh Yi-young. One evening, he hesitantly talks to his brother about Oh Yi-young, his sister-in-law's younger sister. His brother misunderstands, merely advising Gu Do-won not to quarrel with the young aunt. Meanwhile, their sister is undergoing an embryo transfer and in vitro fertilization. Despite the slim chances of pregnancy, she remains hopeful. Oh Yi-young plans to buy a baby car seat for her potential nephew and goes to the bank to set up a fixed deposit. Leaving the bank, she runs into Gu Do-won, who won't make it home that evening. He asks her to deliver pineapple bread he bought for his sister-in-law. Oh Yi-young reveals she also likes pineapple bread, prompting Gu Do-won to promise to buy some for her next time. Displeased, Oh Yi-young recalls how he previously promised to treat her to crab sauce, and it's always next time. Seeing her displeasure, Gu Do-won bravely asks her to dinner after work the next night. Oh Yi-young agrees without hesitation. The next day at work, she keeps confirming the dinner time, eagerly anticipating the meal. Gu Do-won, worried about hospital duties holding him back, is reassured by Oh Yi-young not to be pessimistic. Nevertheless, Gu Do-won's fears materialize. Before leaving work, he waits in the parking lot with a confession card for Oh Yi-young. But then, a flower delivery goes wrong due to a car accident. Gu Do-won mistakenly mixed up the dates, failing to secure a reservation at the restaurant. Apologetically, he calls Oh Yi-young to cancel dinner. Learning of the cancellation, a visibly disappointed Oh Yi-young confronts Gu Do-won at home, suspecting him of playing games. Witnessing her distress, Gu Do-won rushes to explain. With no card or flowers left, all he can offer is his confession. Seriously, Gu Do-won confesses his feelings. Overjoyed, Oh Yi-young rushes into his embrace, and they finally confirm their relationship. After walking home together, the couple decided to keep their relationship a secret from the elder sister until she successfully conceives. When Gu Do-won entered the passcode to open the door, he suddenly remembered that his brother and sister-in-law were away on a trip and would not return for 3 days. Realizing he would be alone with his sister-in-law, Gu Do-won closed the door, lied about needing to return to the hospital for work. Oh Yi-young, seeing through her brother-in-law's thoughts, did not question him further but approached Gu Do-won and kissed him secretly. Gu Do-won entered the elevator and, unable to restrain himself, passionately kissed Oh Yi-young. Life at the hospital was equally exciting. That day, 2 show producers came to film a reality show about the daily life in the obstetrics and gynecology department. Learning about the filming, Dr. Myung seized the opportunity to show warmth and kindness to a pregnant woman on camera, promising to do his best during her delivery. Oh Yi-young warned Dr. Myung that the woman's narrow pelvis might complicate natural childbirth, possibly necessitating a cesarean section. However, having boasted on camera, Dr. Myung rejected Oh Yi-young's suggestion and insisted on natural childbirth. Not just for the show, Dr. Myung also contacted Oh Yi-young at night from home, asking her to open a video call to facilitate remote communication with the pregnant woman and to report the condition every hour. On the day of delivery, the woman struggled to deliver naturally. After over 2 hours of labor pains, Oh Yi-young had to call Dr. Myung to switch to an emergency cesarean section. Although Dr. Myung agreed, she did not forget to perform for the cameras, blaming Oh Yi-young for not transferring the woman to the surgery room in time, loudly criticizing her irresponsibility on camera. During the surgery, Dr. Myung tried hard to appear gentle and caring. After the surgery, she pretended to be considerate, advising Oh Yi-young to consult her anytime. The reality show's camerawoman was thrilled, capturing a touching scene in the delivery room. Soon after the reality show's pilot was edited, Oh Yi-young saw that Dr. Myung was portrayed as a benevolent protagonist. Amused and frustrated, she immediately thought about resigning but was persuaded by Pyo Nam-kyung to stay. Similarly, Jae-il was enduring his own challenges. A new intern who had been working for only a month kept making mistakes. Kim Sabi often scolded the intern harshly, but Jae-il, accustomed to empathizing with newcomers, always comforted and even frequently helped solve problems caused by the intern. However, this led to unintended consequences. Due to Jae-il's leniency, the intern began to slack off, deliberately leaving tasks for Jae-il and even bad-mouthing his excessive kindness to colleagues, calling him an easy target. Jae-il and Gu Do-won overheard this. The intern apologized to Jae-il, who felt wronged but still forgave him easily. Gu Do-won consoled Jae-il, advising him to maintain standards while being kind. to criticize when necessary, and not to hold back on reprimands. Yet, Jae-il continued his gentle nature, preferring to offer comfort and hope to those in difficulty, like his own mentors did. Since confirming their relationship, Oh Yi-young and Gu Do-won started dating sweetly. Gu Do-won would wait for Oh Yi-young in the parking lot after work, which made her happy but also worried about colleagues discovering their relationship and gossiping. At home, their secretive messaging was noticed by her sister, who suspected Oh Yi-young was in a relationship. When confronted, Yi-young admitted it. Her sister and brother-in-law immediately inquired about her partner. Before she could respond, her sister listed Oh Yi-young's past relationship issues, emphasizing her fickleness in love. Gu Do-won watched Oh Yi-young intently, as she boldly claimed she would marry her current partner, causing Gu Do-won to spit out his drink in surprise. Her sister decided to meet the future brother-in-law at the hospital, prompting Oh Yi-young to quickly say she was just joking. After finishing work, Oh Yi-young quietly joins Gu Do-won in the break room to have lunch alone, secretly holding his hand. When someone enters, they quickly act as if everything is normal. Oh Yi-young complains that there is nowhere in the hospital suitable for a date, and they can't use their home because her sister and brother-in-law are there. Gu Do-won tries his best to find time to invite Oh Yi-young for coffee later, but hospital duties continually disrupt their dating plans. In the afternoon, a helicopter delivers a woman who had just given birth and suffered significant postpartum bleeding. She is quickly rushed to the operating room. Seeing her covered in blood, Pyo Nam-kyung panics momentarily. Oh Yi-young helps by calming her down, repeatedly reminding her of her newborn child, which somewhat revitalizes the woman. Professor Shu leads the surgery with help from other departments, while Oh Yi-young keeps her composure throughout. The surgery ends successfully, with precise teamwork. After the operation, Oh Yi-young and Pyo Nam-kyung need to organize surgical documents. Gu Do-won, unable to assist in the surgery, expresses gratitude to the two resident doctors on behalf of the patient. Although they couldn't help in the surgery, they tirelessly soothed the patient's emotions, a commendable effort. To ease the workload on the younger doctors, Gu Do-won takes over their tasks and secretly messages Oh Yi-young, arranging a secret date in 2 hours. The empty corner is perfect for a date. Dr. Lee and his girlfriend are also in this hospital. Dr. Lee, mischievously, tells his girlfriend that couples in the hospital love to secretly date in this secluded corner. Playful Dr. Lee tries to catch a couple on a date by quietly opening doors after doors but finds no one, leaving disappointed. At that moment, Kim Sabi and Jae-il, who had been hiding under the table, quietly emerged. Their relationship had rapidly progressed. Kim Sabi often faced scolding from Senior Professor Tao. Jae-il advised him to apologize first, if he noticed the professor looking serious. However, Kim Sabi, stubborn, couldn't adopt Jae-il's approach and was scolded again for a mistake. At the time, another senior, Professor Ryu, comforted Kim Sabi, insisting the fault wasn't hers and encouraged her to stay spirited. Known as the most approachable person in the hospital, Professor Ryu saw Kim Sabi's low spirits and suggested getting a coffee downstairs. When Kim Sabi hesitated, Professor Ryu claimed he wanted the coffee himself and urged her to go buy it, then sat at her desk to cover her work. That day, Kim Sabi stared at the coffee she bought, finding it exceptionally tasty. Later, after being harshly criticized by another senior, Professor Ryu intervened. He argued that while juniors should be scolded for mistakes, the scolding should be appropriate in location and content, respecting the person's dignity. The senior, embarrassed, quickly apologized to Kim Sabi, who thanked Professor Ryu and eagerly volunteered to assist in his surgeries after hours. After work, Yan gave Kim Sabi 2 pieces of bread. With only 2, Jae-il took Kim Sabi to a secret corner of the hospital used by couples for dates, planning to eat the bread in hiding. Before leaving, Jae-il went back to get his coat and accidentally stumbled upon Oh Yi-young and Gu Do-won sweetly holding hands. Gu Do-won takes Oh Yi-young to a real estate agency to pick a house. He explains that since they started dating, living with his brother and sister-in-law has been inconvenient. They want their own space. Oh Yi-young blushes, thinking of something embarrassing. That evening, they eat at a restaurant. A customer suddenly falls ill. They rush to help and save the person with perfect teamwork. The next day, at the hospital elevator, Oh Yi-young flirts with Gu Do-won. A girl asks for directions to the outpatient clinic. To hide their relationship, Gu Do-won covers Oh Yi-young with a bag. But the girl notices her. Coincidentally, she is Ae-ryum, a new nurse in the maternity ward. She already knows Oh Yi-young. Ae-ryum secretly promises to pretend she saw nothing. Later, Gu Do-won hears about the new nurse. Seeing it's the girl from the elevator, he nervously hands her coffee under Oh Yi-young's glare. Meanwhile, Jae-il, who already knows their secret, hints he'll keep quiet. That day, Pyo Nam-kyung meets Gu Do-won, wearing a blue cap. He learns Gu Do-won is having dinner with his sister-in-law, Oh Yi-young's sister. Now he realizes they're in-laws. Elsewhere, Kim Sabu collects doctors' addresses for wedding gifts. He discovers Oh Yi-young and Gu Do-won share the same address they live together. Jae-il and Kim Sabu watch a restaurant surveillance video. The uploader wants to find the rescuers from that night. Pyo Nam-kyung recognizes Gu Do-won. Blue cap. Kim Sabu notices the other rescuer's jacket matches Oh Yi-young's by. And, Jae-il claims they're dating. Kim Sabu knows they live together. Pyo Nam-kyung only thinks they're in-laws. After sharing their theories, all three are shocked. Unaware of everything, Oh Yi-young walks into the duty room. The three are stunned when they see her wearing the same jacket and shoes from the video. Now they're certain about her and Gu Do-won's real relationship. Meanwhile, the hospital's hectic pace continues. Professor Jeong-eui, an OB-GYN nearing her due date, refuses to rest. Instead, she keeps guiding Oh Yi-young, even correcting her ultrasound techniques on herself. Known as a delivery fanatic, Professor Jeong-eui has delivered countless babies. She downplays labor pain and even considers delivering her own baby. On delivery day, despite her contractions, Professor Jeong-eui insists Oh Yi-young bring interns to observe. But soon, the pain overwhelms her. She urgently demands an Oh Yi-young keeps her promise interns witness the smooth delivery. That night, Ae-ryum and Oh Yi-young have coffee. Oh Yi-young accidentally brushes Ae-ryum's hip. Ae-ryum flinches. Seat triggers her trauma. In the past, Ae-ryum was harassed by a male doctor. Oh Yi-young bit the offender to protect her, which led to her resignation. Now, Ae-ryum is slowly healing. Later, a woman arrives with severe menstrual pain. Pyo Nam-kyung diagnoses her but realizes she's uncomfortable with male doctors. Hoping to recruit Dr. Cho for OB-GYN, Pyo Nam-kyung mentors him, saying, "Don't let gender limit you. This is where life begins full of joy." But Dr. Cho looks grim. He recently filed 4 death certificate testo from gynecology. Undeterred, Pyo Nam-kyung hasn't given up on him yet. Another expectant mother arrives. To show Dr. Cho the beauty of obstetrics, Pyo Nam-kyung acts gracefully and speaks gently. But during the exam, they discover umbilical cord prolapsion emergency C-section is needed. Pyo Nam-kyung shouts orders, rushing to secure an OR. After the successful delivery, Pyo Nam-kyung looks defeated. She thinks she scared Dr. Cho away. Yet, Dr. Cho smiles genuinely. For some reason, he now finds obstetrics amazing. Yesterday, Oh Yi-young and Gu Do-won's secret relationship was exposed by 3 colleagues. Under pressure, Oh Yi-young admits the truth. The colleagues promise secrecy, but immediately gossip spreads it hospital-wide. Gu Do-won goes to the bank to open a 1-year fixed deposit for marriage funds. The 3 nosy juniors overhear and tease him right there, blessing the couple. While packing to move, Gu Do-won stops Oh Yi-young from opening a certain drawer. She picks up a farewell note from his junior instead, dramatically reading it aloud. As they play fight over it, they fall onto the bed together, just as her sister and brother-in-law walk in. Still clueless, the couple doesn't suspect a thing. Later, Gu Do-won opens the forbidden drawer. It holds matching couple rings. New Year's Eve in the maternity ward. Mothers hope for lucky New Year's babies. The delivery rooms buzz with activity. One mother even discusses fortune-telling over the phone, convinced her child's destiny depends on the birth date. The baby arrived on the 31st. Soon after, another expectant mother needed urgent delivery. Professor Seo guided Oh Yi-young through the process. With patience, Oh Yi-young successfully delivered a healthy baby right at midnight. "Congratulations, it's a New Year's baby," Oh Yi-young exclaimed joyfully. But the new year brought mixed emotions. Pyo Nam-kyung treated a patient with recurrent gynecological cancer. The condition was critical, and a DNR was in place. She recognized her the first patient she'd ever treated in gynecology. The woman passed away shortly after. Pyo Nam-kyung stared at the death certificate on her computer, then broke down in tears. Then, the ER buzzed with urgency. A man rushed in with his laboring wife. Pyo Nam-kyung pushed aside her grief and sprang into action. The baby was delivered safely. Cradling the crying newborn, she wept again this time, with overwhelming emotion. Life and death, side by side. Meanwhile, Jae-il learned his own lessons. Lately, he'd been spending nights in the ward with a cervical cancer patient. Her severe pain required medication every 2 hours. Exhausted but determined, Jae-il rushed to her each time, his hair perpetually messy. Yet he never complained. Being needed is better than being invisible, he thought, recalling his early days as an ignored rookie. That night, the patient slept soundly for once. Professor Cao discovered Jae-il had researched additional pain relief. "Thank you," the patient said. But more than the medicine, she cherished his constant companionship even. Their simple chats warmed her heart. That night, the usually strict Professor Cao quietly praised Jae-il. He even offered to help him write a research paper. Il's senior colleague marveled at his growth. He wasn't the clueless rookie anymore. Kim Sabu had his own realization. A critical patient faced a difficult surgery. Worried, Kim Sabu kept checking on her, cracking jokes to lift her spirits. When the patient wished him Happy New Year, warmth filled the hospital room. After work, Kim Sabu and Jae-il walked together. Jae-il suddenly called Kim Sabu cute. "Do you like me?" Kim Sabu asked directly. Jae-il admitted it freely. Kim Sabu returned the feeling but said, "I need more time before we date." At the same time, Pyo Nam-kyung met Dr. Cho at the station. Dr. Cho announced his decision. "I'm joining obstetrics officially." Overjoyed, Pyo Nam-kyung promised to mentor him well. They shook hands then. Dr. Cho held on a beat too long. Snow fell as Oh Yi-young found Gudo 1 in his car. Flowers and a ring waited for her. Before she could react, he kissed her passionately. Oh Yi, Young's sister's IVF failed again. The doctor urged more attempts, but she chose to pause. "Even without children," she said, "my husband's love is enough." Back at the hospital, Oh Yi-young entered the second-year residence lounge. Her 3 noisy colleagues hadn't changed. Smiling, she felt like it was their first meeting again. With hope for the future and respect for life, the 4 stepped out, ready for their battles ahead.